Hi everyone, I'm Brian Kroll, and I'm here today in my beautiful apartment in Skopje, Macedonia to bring you a very special video on gender equality and what gender equality really means now that we've actually seen it and its effects confirmed, and what is called the gender equality paradox. And the fact is that gender equality has conclusively shown that the two biological genders out there are very different, and that equality does not mean gender neutrality or that the genders are going to become more similar or the same as one another. In fact, gender equality is on the opposite of neutralizing gender polarity. It has actually caused more gender polarity. And I do have evidence to show this. I'm going to be backing this up with actual social science studies and facts. And so while modern feminism wants people to believe that gender is just a social construct, it is not. There is, of course, a biological basis for gender and a biology of gender and sexuality that goes along with that. And men and women do have different genetics, the X and the Y chromosomes that make them the two different genders, and they both have different hormones that make them the two different genders, both biologically and psychologically. Okay, women have estrogen that produces certain types of emotional and psychological states and behaviors that go along with that, and men have more testosterone, which produces certain emotions and psychological states and behaviors that go along with that. So while gender is a cultural and sociological construct that comes from our social conditioning, it's also something that is biologically and psychologically inherent. And while modern feminists want to believe and teach that gender is something that is a social construct and thus is not actually real, and that both genders are essentially the same in many ways if you just weren't to influence them with this social conditioning, that is simply not true. And I do have actual social studies and data to back this claim up that I'm going to get to in a moment. Now, I know why feminists are saying this. They are saying this because they want to believe that a woman can do anything that a man can do, and people should have the equal right to do what they want regardless of their gender. And these days, they do. And in some countries more than others, and we now have the data to show that when people are given the gender equality to do whatever it is that they want, that things don't actually turn out equal, because of the fact there are actual biological and psychological differences between men and women that cause them to do different things. Even when they have equal opportunities, they are simply prone to different thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and thus different interests and pursuits and lifestyles and goals and end results. And so the fact is that even when we have gender equality, men and women are just different. They are not the same, and that's okay. Actually, it's more than okay. It is good. It is good that men and women are different. That is what makes things interesting in society and in relationships, to have different types of people that can contribute different types of thoughts, feelings, behaviors, interests, pursuits, and such. And it makes it more than just interesting. That's what makes it good and constructive. You need to have these complementary counterparts coming together in relationships and in groups and organizations and society in order to have things be constructive. They're like puzzle pieces fitting together, each bringing something different to the table. So men and women should not be the same. They need to be different in order for us each to make complementary contributions in our relationships and other social dynamics. And in many cases, men and women can't do the same things and do need each other, okay? Men can't bear children, and we need women for that. Women generally aren't as strong as men. Even the strongest woman in the world is not as strong as an average athletic man. Women do need men to do the more laborious jobs and to be soldiers and such. They just do not have as much of a capacity in those things. Now, this doesn't mean that women don't have the right to do labor-oriented jobs and to become soldiers if they want to, but it is going to be more difficult for them, and they may not be able to go as far, and it's going to take more of a physical toll on them, and many women simply aren't going to want to do these types of jobs and choose to do them. So we shouldn't be pushing women into these fields that are going to be less enjoyable for them and more detrimental for them. And there's nothing wrong with women not wanting to do and opting out of doing jobs like becoming soldiers or construction workers that require a certain physical burden that is better suited for a healthy, strong, athletic man. Just like there's nothing wrong with a man not wanting to try out becoming pregnant by going through, a laboratory implantation, even though it's his right to do that if he wants to. A lot of men are not choosing to do that because it's just better suited for women to be the ones getting pregnant. And so this is the real key here with gender equality, is that both genders have the right to do anything that they want to do, even if it's something that traditionally is done by the other gender, but they do not have to do these things in order to exercise their equality and try to prove that a man and woman can do anything that they want to, even if it's something that is traditionally done by the opposite gender. So there's nothing wrong with the genders being different, and there's nothing wrong with men and women continuing to do things that have always traditionally been done by the gender that they are.
If you're enjoying listening to what I have to say, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel I'm adding value to your life, you can also tip me at the PayPal link below in proportion to the amount of value added. Your support will help me be able to continue this work because the oppressive fascists at YouTube are against this kind of content and actively trying to suppress it. So it is only with the help of viewers like you that I'll be able to keep fighting the good fight.
This is exactly what modern equality has proven. The genders are different, and there are certain traditional roles that we fall into because of our biological and psychological basis in gender, and that is okay and even good. All right. Case in point here. Scandinavian countries as a whole have become the most gender equal countries in the world. But over the years, the more gender equal they have become, the more different the personality types and the interests of men and women have become. So this gender equality doesn't mean that men and women start being like each other, then that men start becoming more feminine and women start becoming more masculine and they become gender neutral. Rather the opposite. Through this gender equality, men have become more masculine and women have become more feminine, and their personality types have become more different. And their interests have become more different as well, okay? This gender equality doesn't mean that suddenly boys in school stop being interested in cars and start being interested in dolls, and that girls stop being interested in dolls and start being interested in cars, and that teenage boys in high school stop being interested in sports and become ballet dancers, and that the girls stop being interested in ballet and become, interested in wrestling and football, and that in college and on the workforce, that men stop being interested in tech and start being interested in social work and becoming nurses and such, and that women stop being interested in those things and start getting interested in tech. For instance, Norway, which was ranked the most gender equal country in the world in one survey, has one of the largest occupational gender divides, in which 90% of nurses are female and 90% of engineers are males. And there are some of the lowest numbers of women in STEM fields. And so women are choosing to do work that has been traditionally done by women, and men are choosing to do work that has been traditionally done by men, even though they have the opportunities to switch and reverse those roles. And women can get into engineering and STEM fields, and men can become nurses and social workers and such, but they are simply choosing not to, and choosing to pursue those fields because it is how we are wired. Men are simply wired more for engineering and STEM fields and tech, and they enjoy it more and are better at it and thrive more in those fields. Women enjoy being nurses and social workers more and are better at that. And this would also explain the perceived gender wage gap that feminists talk about, in that women tend to choose jobs that they enjoy, which just so happen to pay less than the jobs that men choose that they enjoy, which happen to pay more. Recent studies have shown that with the top and the lowest 5 paying positions in America, 4 out of 5 of the top 5 paying positions in America were occupied mostly by men, and 4 out of 5 of the lowest paying positions in America were occupied mostly by women. So because these are the career choices that men and women are making, there is a perceived wage gap between men and women. However, the men and women who are in the top 5 paying positions in the world are making the same, and the men and women who are in the lowest 5 paying positions in the world are making the same. It's just that more men are going after high paying positions and more women are going after low paying positions. And what's perhaps most interesting and controversial about this gender equality paradox is that gender equality is not actually the answer to unhealthy gender relations and does not automatically cause healthy gender relations. In fact, it has actually led to a gender identity crisis in the countries that have a lot of fourth wave feminism and gender rights activism and LGBTQ activism, which when it's taken too far has been causing a gender identity crisis. And ironically, in this gender equality paradox has been furthering gender disparity and unhealthy gender relations and even rape culture. So you see there's a big backlash on all this fourth wave feminism, screaming rape culture at men, and all this LGBTQ activism telling people that they should be gender neutral, and that it is actually having a negative effect on gender relations and causing greater rape culture. Case in point, Iceland, which is found to be the most gender equal country in the world outside of Norway and Scandinavia, has one of the highest rates of rape in all of Europe. Because in spite of the gender equality, the genders there are simply not relating in a healthy way. They are not able to have healthy gender relations. In fact, the gender equality has produced a greater rape culture. So gender equality is not the answer for unhealthy gender relations, and certainly does not automatically produce healthy gender relations. Rather the opposite. And so what people need to do is realize that men and women are different, and many of the ways that we're different are good. And if there are any negative differences between us that cause a toxic sort of disparity, equality is not going to resolve that disparity and those negative differences. The only way that we're going to resolve those differences is by learning to relate together in healthy ways, in which the masculine and feminine polarity can unite and balance and harmonize itself together through good gender relations. And it is because we are so different that equality will not suddenly cause us to relate, and why we need to learn how how to relate to one another because of our differences, so that we can reconcile any negative differences, but we also need to celebrate our positive differences and share the different aspects of ourselves with each other and how we contrast in mutual complement. That can be very constructive together and cause us to have the healthy, happy, positive, fulfilling relationships for domestic life and families and for building civilizations and empires together. So while equality is important and is just a human right between the genders, it's not the answer to healthy gender relations. It won't cause them. We need to still be able to reconcile our negative differences and celebrate the positive ones and learn to relate together and have the healthy relationships that we want to have.
That concludes this video. Thanks for listening. I hope I mansplained that good enough for you. If you like what you heard, please click the like button. And if you feel you gained some value from this video and would like to give some back, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support helps fund me doing this work and fight the good fight for men like you. If you are ready to take the red pill and wake up from the matrix and the matriarchy controlling it and learn everything you need to know about female on male sexism, get your copy of my newly released book called Misandry Exposed. On sale now for a special price that won't last long. So check it out by clicking the link below. And otherwise, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.